You're listening to ABC Southeast with Becc Chave.
Well, all over regional South Australia, we hear of councils battling the problem of stray, feral or roaming cats. A recent survey from the Australian Geographic suggested that 2/3 of Australians support banning pet cats from roaming. What do you think on this? 0467 922 783. Andrew from Naracoorte texted in to say, "Hi Becc, cats roaming free destroy native fauna. They should be registered, chipped and kept on the owner's property. If they are off the property, they should be under direct control of the owner." Thanks for your thoughts, Andrew. Keep them coming this morning. 1300 476 222. Well, researchers say a ban would save millions of native animals and billions of dollars. And some councils in Australia now do actually require cats to be contained overnight or 24 hours a day. Could this work in regional South Australia? We're joined this morning by Jaana Dielenberg, a spokesperson for the Biodiversity Council. Jaana, good morning. Thank you very much for your time on the program this morning.
Good morning.
So you have conducted these surveys recently. Does the majority of your survey respondents want to see cats contained?
Yes, so this survey was conducted by the Biodiversity Council in collaboration with Monash University, and it was great that Australian Geographic published some of the results. And what we found was that the vast majority of the community nationally are very supportive of improved action and for pet owners to be required to keep their pet cat contained to their property. So we found that 66% of people, or 2/3, thought that owners should be required to do that. And we found only a very small proportion, 8%, or 1 in 12 people, who opposed the idea. And then the remaining 26% didn't mind either way. And the really interesting thing about that finding, people might assume that people who don't have cats are the ones who are saying they should keep them in, and that cat owners are saying let them out. But it's definitely not the case, because 1/3 of households in Australia have a cat, but only 8% of people thought that they shouldn't be required to keep them contained, which means even the vast majority of cat owners either support the idea or wouldn't mind it.
And just remind us, what does this mean, contained? What would you be asking owners to do?
Because cats are such good climbers and jumpers, keeping a cat contained to your property so it can't roam the street or go up to the local park, for most people that means keeping your cat indoors or in a secure run, or some people set up like a catio or a netted area down the side of their house. Some people who might have like a small courtyard might be able to get some of those floppy top fences to keep their cat climbing out of their courtyard. But for most people, it means an indoor cat, or having it in some kind of sort of secure enclosure when they let it out.
And this has been done in Australia before. I mean, there are dog containment laws.
Yes, that's right. This would actually bring cats into line with national expectations for dogs and what the community readily accepts for dogs. I do appreciate it's a bit harder with a cat than a dog. I have a cat myself. But yeah, it would bring it into line with that. And it would mean we're really minimising the impact that our pet cats, who, are a little treasure and delight for us, they're for our enjoyment as a pet, but it means that we minimise the impacts that they have on the environment. And it's actually also much better for the welfare of the cat.
Yeah, Jaana, I was going to say that. What about the welfare of the cat here? Is there an argument that cats are roaming animals by nature? It would be unfair to lock them up?
No, actually the overwhelming evidence, and one of the reasons that many councils are looking at being more proactive and requiring people to keep cats contained, is because the evidence shows that cats that are kept securely contained live longer and healthier lives. And that's because they are protected from car accidents, from being attacked by dogs, from fights with other cats, which can often leave them with an infection and a big abscess, and also other kinds of misadventure. It would also reduce rates of cat-borne diseases. So there's 3 diseases in Australia that can only exist and be spread by cats, but they can be spread to humans with some pretty significant impacts. So if you do have an indoor cat like we do, it's you have to invest time in your cat to keep it happy inside. But much like people accept that if they have a dog, they have to take their dog for a walk and spend some time with it, we play with our cat, and he loves it in the evening. He feels a bit frisky and he loves to chase things, so we throw little bits of dry dog food actually skittling down the hallway, and he runs and pounces on them, and he's really quite happy indoors.
Tell us about those cat-borne diseases. They do actually have quite an impact on our health systems.
That's right. So there is the three key diseases in Australia that could not occur in Australia if it weren't for cats: toxoplasmosis, cat roundworm, and cat scratch disease. So although they can be passed to humans and other animals, they have to complete their life cycle in cats. So with toxoplasmosis, it's a parasite, and it has to complete its life cycle in the gut of a cat. And then if a cat sort of poos in your yard, it releases all these little oocyst eggs into the environment. And then if you're gardening or your kid's in the sandpit, you can't even see these microscopic little eggs. You might get one on your hand and then touch your mouth and ingest one. And so for most people in the community, they either don't suffer any obvious symptoms or they don't realise it's toxoplasmosis because they might have just thought it was a cold or a flu, although it does leave a cyst in your brain usually, and that can subtly affect your behaviour and mental health outcomes over your life. But for people who have got compromised immune systems, it can be really very serious. 8,500 people are hospitalised each year, and
Wow.
50 people die every year.
8,500 hospitalisations.
That's right, yeah. It is from the acute effects of the disease, so it can actually be, in itself a very serious illness which will put you into hospital. But it also includes things like people who might suffer a car accident as a result of a toxoplasmosis infection. So this is probably something that sounds a little bit sci-fi to many people, but this little parasite, or sort of the cyst that it leaves in your brain, it has been found to subtly affect your rates of risk-taking, so you're more likely to take risks, and also it slightly reduces your reaction time. And so big global studies have found that people who have been exposed to toxoplasmosis and have had an infection, they are actually at a higher risk of having a car accident.
Wow, remarkable. So if things like cat containment laws were to be brought in, because at the moment in South Australia it is down to each individual council to enforce this kind of a thing. We have our overall state cat and dog laws, but the rules are just a start though. If they were to be implemented, what councils could actually support pet owners through the transition?
Yeah, absolutely. We can't just change the laws on the council website and imagine that everyone in the community knows about it and will get behind it. We really need to invest time in communicating with the community what the new laws are and why, so people really understand why they're being asked to do what they're doing. And we'd really like to see local governments give some support to the community. So possibly if you've already got a cat, maybe you don't have fly screens and so you don't actually have a way of keeping your cat in at the moment. Or maybe you'd like to set up these catio enclosures so your cat can go outside. So it'd be great to see councils offering support in way of rebates for those kinds of activities. And then ultimately we need council to invest in doing some monitoring and enforcement of the rules until everybody in the community understands and is on board with the new changes.
Jaana, thank you very much for your time on the program this morning. Do appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That is Jaana Dielenberg there, a spokesperson for the Biodiversity Council. Keen to hear your thoughts on this morning. Sharon has texted in to say, "Hi Becc, we can't get pet owners to comply with current rules. What makes us think owners will comply with being kept on own property?" Sharon says, "I'm amazed how many kittens are still being born and continue the cat-dog problem. Talk all the talk. There's not enough incentive to comply to rules anyway." Thanks for your thoughts, Sharon. Keep them coming this morning, 0467 922 783. So there you have it though. New research shows the community is ready for widespread reform of how we manage all these cats. So how can we learn from others who have already gone through this and created change? Well, the Aldgate Valley Landcare group in the Adelaide Hills began successfully advocating for a ban on roaming cats in their community back in 2010. We're joined this morning by David Mussared, the chair of the Aldgate Valley Landcare group. David, good morning. Thanks for your time as well today.
Yeah, good morning, Becc. How are you going down there in the cold south?
Yeah, very cold still this morning, David, but warming up slowly. Now, what has the impact of your lobbying been locally?
It actually dates back a bit further than that. It went back to 2003 when we had a program, the Valley of the Bandicoots program, and we were looking at threats to bandicoots in the local area, and one of the things we did was look at the impact of cats and community attitudes to cats. So, and I'd have to say for the first 10 or 15 years, we had pretty fruitless times. Like we talked to council in about 2005 or 6 to limiting the number of cats, and that was about it, I think. And then they changed their minds a few years later and said, okay, you can have as many as you want. But after many years and a lot more intensive lobbying through the official council processes, and there were no less than 4 public consultation processes, I think it was in 2016-17, and every one of those public consultation processes found very strong community support for compulsory cat confinement. And in 2018, I think I'm right in saying, the council passed a bylaw saying that on the 1st of January 2022, all cats needed to be confined to the owner's property. So it was about a 3.5 year, by memory, lead-in time to give people time to get ready. One thing you always hear in these debates, and I'm not in these conversations, I'm never really sure why, is focus on compliance. You know, like some people won't comply. And the point of a bylaw like this is to hold up a community stand and say, this is what your community expects from you, is that your community expects you to take 100% responsibility for your pet, and that includes keeping it confined to your property at all times. The fact that some people won't comply to that, I don't think is a strong argument for not doing it. Not everyone complies with speeding laws or drunk driving laws, but that doesn't mean we don't do them. It just means that we're holding up a community stand and saying this is what we expect, this is what the right thing to do is, and over time most people will do that.
David, have you seen a marked impact since these laws have been brought in 2022?
Yeah, as far as I know, there's been no research. I mean, anecdotally, you'll hear everything. On my own place, I have remote cameras, trail cams out, and I used to see a cat, most nights, or at least one cat most nights. I've seen one cat in the past 2 years, or since the bylaw's been enforced. So that's the only anecdote I can give you. Is that for me, for this little patch here where I'm watching, it's working. So the other thing that I observe is the conversations on social media, and particularly the last 5 or 6 years, those conversations have swung around very strongly in favour of people just looking after their own animals rather than inflicting them on the community when they're not using them, sort of thing. So,
What would you say to councils in areas of South Australia, like here in the southeast, who might be considering it or thinking about something like this?
I would say use your public consultation processes. They're a total pain for the community, these council public consultation processes, particularly when they're overused. Like, as I said, we had to go through 4 rounds of it. But yes, go for it. Put in grandfathering clauses. So, the average life expectancy of an uncontained cat is about 3.5 years, which is about what the lead-in time here was. I think that's probably too long, but you've got to give the community time to adjust and get ready. The big issue is not homeowners. Homeowners have got no reason, no excuse at all for letting their cats roam. The big issue is people who rent, and that they're the ones that need support and who need help with the introduction of laws like this.
Yeah, especially, I suppose, things if they are renting with cats, portable catios, that kind of a thing, because they can be quite expensive infrastructure to invest in. They
can. They're a lot cheaper than vet bills, to be honest. If your cat gets bitten by a snake, or has a traumatic encounter with a car or any of the other things that can happen to an unconfined cat, you'll find that catios are a lot cheaper in the long run.
David, thank you very much for your time on the program this morning. We do appreciate it.
No worries. Thanks, Becc. Nice to talk to you.
That is David Mussared there, the chair of the Aldgate Valley Landcare group, who successfully lobbied the Adelaide Hills Council so that in 2022 the council introduced a cat bylaw, which meant that domestic cats had to be kept at home at all times unless on a harness, leash or similar out in the community. Thank you very much for your thoughts on this topic this morning. Keep them coming, 0467 922 783.